You didn't call your parents when you were bored. You didn't have a screen telling you what to feel. You didn't have something filling every empty second. There were gaps, silence, space. You figured things out, or you didn't. And somehow, you survived. If you grew up in the 1980s, there is a quiet kind of mental strength you carry today. Not loud, not dramatic, not designed to be noticed, a strength that doesn't announce itself, but one that is deeply rooted. So deeply rooted that most of the time, you don't even recognize it as strength. You just think, this is normal. This is how I am. This is how I deal with things. Pause. You remember being outside until the streetlights came on? Not because someone tracked you. Not because someone texted you reminders. But because that was simply the rhythm of the day. You remember walking places alone. No phone, no GPS, no reassurance in your pocket. You remember disappearing into the world for hours and coming back when it felt right. You remember getting lost, not metaphorically, actually lost, and feeling that mix of fear and curiosity and responsibility. No adult immediately stepping in. No voice telling you exactly what to do. Just you and the problem in front of you. And somehow, you figured it out. Pause. You remember boredom. Real boredom. The kind that felt heavy in your chest. The kind that made time feel slow. The kind that had no instant solution. No endless entertainment. No instant dopamine. No distraction tailored just for you. Just long stretches of time. And in those stretches, something important happened. You were forced to stay with yourself, with your thoughts, with your emotions, with your inner world. Back then, this felt normal, but psychologically, it was doing something profound. It was shaping your nervous system, quietly, relentlessly, without anyone realizing it. Pause. Many people from that generation grow up believing they were simply left alone, that they had to grow up fast, that emotions weren't really discussed, and sometimes that's true. But here's the reframe most people never hear. What if what you learned wasn't emotional neglect, but emotional self-reliance? What if what you now interpret as emotional distance, as being too independent or too closed off, is actually a nervous system that learned early how to regulate itself without constant external guidance? Not suppression, not avoidance. Regulation. Pause. As a child in the 1980s, your body learned autonomy early. You moved through the world physically. You explored streets, buildings, fields, neighborhoods. You climbed things. You tested boundaries. Sometimes you failed. Sometimes you got hurt. Sometimes you were scared. And most of the time, no one rushed in immediately. You were allowed to struggle just enough. So your body learned first, before language, before analysis, before explanation. It learned something fundamental. I can tolerate uncertainty. I can survive discomfort. I can figure things out. These weren't beliefs, they were experiences. And experiences wire the nervous system far deeper than any words ever could. Pause. This is where your quiet confidence comes from. Not the confidence that needs approval, not the confidence that performs well socially, but the confidence that comes from repetition, from having faced uncertainty again and again, from having handled things without rescue, from knowing at a body level that discomfort does not automatically mean danger. Even now, decades later, your nervous system still carries this memory. It doesn't speak it, it simply acts from it. Pause. Emotionally, your childhood followed a very different rhythm. There were no constant emotional check-ins, no pressure to name every feeling immediately, no expectation to process emotions out loud. So you learn to turn inward. You learn to observe yourself quietly, to notice emotions without reacting instantly, to wait. You learn that feelings don't always need an audience. This trained emotional containment. And containment is not repression. Repression pushes emotions away. Containment holds them safely until they can be understood. You learned how to hold. That's why you often pause before responding. Why you think before you speak. Why you don't instinctively externalize everything you feel. In today's world, this can be misunderstood. It can look like distance, like emotional reserve, like disinterest, but it isn't. It's regulation. Pause. Now let's talk about something even deeper. Your relationship with stimulation, your relationship with reward, your dopamine system. Because your brain grew up in a completely different environment. You didn't have constant novelty. You didn't have infinite choice. You didn't have instant gratification. Entertainment had limits. Comfort had limits. Distraction had limits. When something was boring, it stayed boring, and your brain adapted. It learned to generate motivation internally. This is rare today. It means your nervous system developed. High frustration tolerance, patience with slow progress, deep focus capacity, resilience during monotony, low dependence on external reward. You learned how to stay with things even when they weren't exciting, even when no one was watching, even when there was no immediate payoff. You weren't trained for speed. You were trained for endurance. Pause. This is why many people with an 80s childhood function surprisingly well under pressure. They don't immediately panic. They don't fall apart when things slow down. They don't need constant reassurance to keep going. Their nervous system knows how to wait, how to hold tension, how to stay steady when others become overwhelmed. Pause. But every strength carries a shadow, and this one does too. You may minimize your own struggles. You may tell yourself, I'll deal with it. You may struggle to ask for help. You may feel uncomfortable sharing vulnerability publicly. You may feel out of sync in a culture that rewards visibility, speed, and emotional exposure. You might even wonder if something is wrong with you, like you're too quiet, too reserved, too emotionally contained. But listen carefully. This is not emotional deficiency. It's an old operating system running in a new environment. An operating system designed for stability, not performance. Pause. Your strength doesn't announce itself. It doesn't trend. It doesn't go viral. It doesn't ask for attention. But it holds. It holds relationships together. It holds families together. It holds situations steady when everything else feels unstable. Pause. Here is the emotional truth most people miss. What you always thought was your flaw, your independence, your silence, your emotional restraint, was actually your nervous system saying, I've handled uncertainty before. I can tolerate discomfort. I don't need to panic. I've got this. You weren't broken. You weren't defective. You were trained unintentionally for resilience. Pause. This isn't about romanticizing the past. It's about recognition. Recognizing a form of strength that doesn't look impressive on the surface but carries enormous weight. A strength that stabilizes others without ever being acknowledged. Pause. So ask yourself gently, when things become uncertain, do you shut down or do you stabilize? Do you avoid emotions or do you process them quietly in your own time and your own way? There is nothing wrong with you. Your strength simply speaks softly. Long pause. And if you grew up that way, you are not alone. You never were.